As an historian living in Salem, people will often ask me what caused the Salem witch trials. And I think often what people are looking for is an excuse. I think it's hard for people to accept that so many people can do something that's seemingly so stupid. And it's hard for us to put ourselves in their place. With all the theories that you hear, I've made videos about it before. None of them are relevant, and I will reiterate that we do not need a theory to explain what is known as a common social phenomenon, what we refer to as a witch hunt, or colloquially as like mass hysteria, is the concept of it is a social phenomenon of the result of herd mentality, mob mentality. When people are in a big group, they'll often think less for themselves and more as a group. The bystander effect, things like that. So when people are looking for an excuse to what caused the Salem witch trials, they're forgetting the most important point, that we don't need a theory. It doesn't matter what all the theories that you hear, all the social, political, phenomenon led up to it, and what we call like a kind of perfect storm scenario. The bottom line is that a witch hunt is when a group of people goes stupid and finds someone else to blame. Now, what often happens is when there's a big group of angry, confused, or scared people, what history will refer to as a charismatic leader might come on in and take advantage of the situation. And we see many examples of that happening during the Salem witch trials, with people who were directly profiting off of a lot of the victims' persecutions. Now, flash forward a little bit further into history, and when I use the word charismatic leader, anybody who knows anything about history, that's going to ring a bell. That's going to sound familiar. That's referring to someone specific. But there are other examples today as well. Here in Massachusetts, this is the only state where every single county in the entire state went, I would say, for Hillary Clinton, but I'm going to say against Trump. And we live in this magical liberal bubble here where all of my friends are so confused about how the president-elect Trump ended up in the position he's in right now. And I think it's hard for us to accept that people made this decision. Now, I think the issue is that people are questioning the intelligence of these types of people. When we, point out the inherent racist or homophobic tendencies and things like that, what it does is it further agitates the situation. And I find that if you compare this situation to other situations in history, it's pretty obvious that these people voted based on fear. Now, historically, a politician who appeals to this type of mentality is it's known as a demagogue. And demagoguery is a word that comes from like ancient Rome, or I think, and basically it's strange that it even works nowadays. The fact that we've been aware of the fact that politicians, do this type of thing, and it still can happen, is mind-boggling. But instead of questioning the intelligence of people, what we need to do is understand what makes them afraid. Why are they voting from that place of fear? There are other examples where the Salem witch trials is coming up in the news, in the political scene right now as well. For instance, I'm pretty sure it was Brooklyn. There's a pizzeria that is getting hate mail. They're getting harassed on Twitter and Instagram, etc., because there's a viral fake news story about how it is the center, like their back rooms are where Hillary Clinton has the center of her child sex traffic ring. Now, you might see that as laughable and utterly ridiculous, but there are enough people that believe something like that, that there has to be something going on in their minds. It's not about intelligence, it's about fear. And we need to understand what makes them afraid. Another good example of this is the fear of Muslims in our community nowadays. It's unbelievable to me to hear Trump's supporters and aides saying things like that Japanese internment camps are a precedent for how we could treat Muslims in America today, or people talking about the McCarthy era as if it was anything else but a terrible time in American history. Now, when Arthur Miller wrote the play The Crucible, it was a direct correlation between the Salem witch trials, or it was a direct analogy about how the Salem witch trials and McCarthyism were, similar ideas. It's something that most of us learn about in school, and it confuses me. Are there parts of the country where they don't learn about McCarthyism and they're not aware that that word is only used in a pejorative sense today? Um, and it does. You want to question their intelligence. You want to say, are these people getting a correct education? And there is a lot of that going on. We know that there are people that are out there that go out of their way to make sure that textbooks are historically inaccurate, or they omit certain things, or they say put creationism as part of their historical or scientific textbooks. Um, but I think that is not the biggest problem. Education is a huge problem, of course, but the big problem is that these people are afraid. I think that's the key to everything, is to understand why people are so afraid. What makes them make the decisions they do is often because they're coming from that place of fear. And I think rather than blame people or question them or call them names or uh, try to, put them into categories. What we need to understand is where people are coming from. And of course, it all goes back to a matter of perspective. And it's difficult because we know that a lot of these people refuse to see things from our perspective. They refuse to understand other people's perspectives. But I think it's important for us to take that step and understand things from their perspective if we're ever going to have any kind of dialogue at all.